Leo, my dear friend, my favorite viewer is here. My favorite viewer is here as well. How are you doing, my friend? How is life serving you? Of course you are, man. I mean, I respect that you're here all this time, man. Yeah, I literally don't exaggerate when I tell you this. Like, I told you this many times. If some of you guys weren't coming, I wouldn't be coming either. So that's like not some bullshit or something. It's literally like, you know, because, you know, in this sort of, if I may say, business streaming, most people who come, they're really there just, they get what they want and they leave, right? So creating these kind of connections matters a lot, right? Otherwise, what's the point? Why would I be doing this, especially for free, right? If there's no people at least that I can hang out with, right? I mean, there's literally even some friends from my work who often watch me, right? So these are the things that are valuable because, you know, most of the other people, I mean, they might come once, twice, 3, 10 times and they're going to be gone, right? Because that's just how it is, right? Ah, shit. Good, bro. Had sauna yesterday and beer, felt amazing. Nice, man. That's awesome. That's pretty cool, man. I'm not a fan of sauna. We have many here in Copenhagen as well. Like, you even have these like public ones where you can just like get a, you know, almost like gets access super easy. We also have access to 2 or 1 of them at our work. I don't know. I just find it, I don't know. Not a fan, at the very least, if I may say that, right? Oh, by the way, I have some awesome stuff that so let me show you guys one thing. Spam TV, let me show you one thing. Amazing stuff. So Ollama 3 came out. This, so Ollama 3 came out, Llama, whatever you pronounce it, 2 days ago. And man, I ran it locally. It's amazing. Let me show you. I just have some bash aliases, but it's so awesome. Let me show you. I'm gonna run the server. I'm gonna run the AI server, and I'm gonna run the client, the prompt right here. So I'm gonna say AIP. That's my alias. Let me show you. It's a large language model. Look at this now. I'm gonna have ChatGPT on my computer in 2 seconds. Look at this. Summarize Finland history for me. Finland has... Dude, it's so amazing. The model is free. You can set it up yourself. It's very easy. You can go here. You can go download. In my case, I've set it up for my Linux machine. You basically set up their executable, and then you run the prompt. And we're actually gonna... So we're gonna set this up for Programmer Network in a couple of streams. So what we're gonna do, as soon as I finish with these things, so we're gonna use obviously Hetzner, then we're gonna use MinesDB. So MinesDB basically is basically a service for working with these large language models, your databases, and you know, things like LangChain and stuff like that. So what we're gonna do, maybe in approximately 3 or 4 streams, we're gonna set the MinesDB with Ollama or some other model, and then we're gonna host that on Hetzner. And then what I want to do, basically, I want to enable it in Programmer Network, so when you're writing articles or thoughts or whatever, it, I don't know, grammar proof your stuff, suggests how you can write something better, etc., etc. It's just for a why not, right? Because we basically gonna need we basically need a server that maybe costs, let's say, 20 euros a month or so. So for example, we're not going to get a dedicated machine. We're going to go to the cloud, and we can run 7 billion parameters basically on a dedicated machine like this. So this has 8 gigs of RAM, so we can run the yeah, I'm going to run it on a different machine, yeah, just so not to throttle the rest of the infrastructure, right? So I'm gonna pay basically $15 a month, and we're gonna have our own LLM, so we don't have to worry about paying for OpenAI and all of that stuff. So I think it's gonna be awesome. I'm looking forward to this project. I don't know much about LLMs, but as you can see, I'm running one now here, and this also exposes an API. So when you run this thing, I mean, we can already start using this locally on our API, right? Because as you can see here, somewhere it exposes the HTTP server. You can see, so this is probably like some sort of Python server or whatever. So it's probably 127 or something. Wait, let's find it. 120. So yeah, here it is, right? So it exposes, what is the port? Yeah, this is the port, right? So basically it's already exposed on 127.0.0.1 and here, right? So we could technically already start writing, using this sending requests in the API, because if we go here, or actually, if we go over here to the models and we go to the llama here, and I scroll a little bit down, I think you can see here, we can already start sending curl requests to it. So if I go here, I can just do a curl, right? And you see, I asked it something. So you see, why is the sky blue? The sky appears blue because blah, 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 right? We don't need it, no. We don't need any special services. We can, of course, only use the OLlama, right? But this MinesDB, right, provides certain abstractions, so it's easier for us to, it's easier to implement the agents and do certain things easier, right? If we only run this as is, we're basically getting a prompt like this, right? With this thing, we can kind of do more. As you can see, we can connect the large language models with our own database. We can do predictions, create agents that, I don't know, you might want to create an agent that transform your SQL, like a natural language into SQL, or vice versa, and do various types of things. And I think this has a solid, let's see what is the license that this has. Is this an MIT license or something? Let's see. Yeah, it is an MIT license, so basically it's an awesome open source license. So technically it's free, right? So we can set this all up. Anyway, that's pretty awesome. Give it a shot. I think it's pretty amazing. The specs basically are very simple. If you want to run a 7 billion parameters one, you need at least 8 gigs of RAM. If you want to run, where was it? So you have 8 billion, 70 billion, so you can see, so MetaLlama is family available in both 8 billion and 70 billion parameter size. So you can see here, you can run, if you have 8 gigs of RAM, you can already run the one with 8 billion parameters, right? But you can see here, for example, let me show you. I can literally, I'm going to give it this React component. Look at this. So I'm going to give it this component now, React component, and say, right, this is a React component named dashboard that displays a list of items with various features such as searching, deleting, editing, blah, blah, blah. It has these props, right, blah, blah, blah. Is there something that we can optimize when it comes to this component, right? Let's see, right? After reviewing the code, I've identified some potential areas for optimization. Use memoization. The dashboard list layout component re-renders the entire list every time the state changes when searching or deleting an item, right? I mean, honestly, this is amazing, right? I mean, you can see that we're looking at the future of large language models and stuff. First, this is publicly available for free. Second, I'm not worried about the machines and RAM and stuff. Hardware is accelerating every year, right? So, in 2-3 years from now, every single website is going to have access to AI, right? Which means we're going to be able to build super smart products without needing to spend millions of dollars paying for infrastructure, right? So anyway, give it a shot. It's pretty amazing. I mean, if you don't have the money to pay for ChatGPT, honestly, this already can. And if you want to be creative, you want to learn React or Stencil or Svelte, set this up on your computer and build your own UI, right? I mean, we could sit now together and build our own UI for this in like, what, 5 minutes, right? Because what you need to do is you really need to call the, where's our curl command? Let's just kill this. So basically you need to build a simple front end, right? That basically calls this API, right? It's not using any API. It's running on your local computer, Leo. It's not talking to the internet. It's working offline. So you could technically build your own UI right now, and it would work amazingly well, right? So I'm gonna kill this now. I don't need it anymore, so I'll just shut it down. Did I actually release this? Yeah, I did. Okay, cool. It's hard to tell, Leo, because I would need to use it a little bit, right? I would have to use it a little bit. You know what I'm probably gonna do off stream? I have this insane computer, this laptop computer also that I bought. You remember when I was traveling, I bought this RTX. So it's similar specs to my desktop, of course. Desktop is. So what I think I'm gonna do, I'm gonna set this LLM on this laptop dedicated here, and then I'm gonna expose it to my internal network at home. So probably from starting this upcoming week, I'm gonna just use my internal LLM. So I'm gonna try stop using ChatGPT just for a couple of days, and then we can do a test for a week. I'm just gonna use my internal stuff. I'm just gonna expose that HTTP server locally in my network, and then we can build a simple UI just with an input, whatever, and then we can actually see how good it is. It's hard to state that without using it, right? The thing is, to be very honest with you, Spam TV, I do need a general LLM, right? Because I actually, to be very frank with you, I use ChatGPT more for other things than programming, right? Because there's a lot of things I use it every day for. I ask a lot of stuff and blah blah blah, right? So okay, let me just see what I just did here. Yeah, so you can see this is now a little bit problematic. And if I actually go ahead, yeah, that's a little bit problematic, I guess, right? So let me just see, because shit, never-ending project, man. Just becoming a little bit frustrating with this thing. Update. Thank you very much for the follow, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, so that was not a good idea. Okay, that was not a great idea what I did there. Okay. Okay, so I have an idea then. I need to do something lastly, and then we should be good. Item actions type. What? Really? Did I by accident remove the type? No. Okay, good. Okay, so I have an idea. I think I came to a conclusion what do we need to do, and it's fine. It's okay, right? So what I'm actually gonna do is, so we have this base thing here, right? Let me just think a little bit about this for a second, because I think I came to a conclusion of the right solution for this. So just for your information, right? Like, you're probably thinking, Alex, why are you spending time on this, right? So my idea was, right, so if you remember, we have our TipTap editor, right? We have this rich text editor, right? And then this rich text editor has controls in it, right? So it has an H2, H3, H5, right? So what I did in our core libraries, I've associated all of the styles of the editor to the rest of the styles of these other headings and paragraphs in the rest of the project, so they're equally the same, right? the problem with that thing is that now when you're in the text editor, and also as you can see when we render a post now, since I've removed the margins and stuff, when we render this tip tab content, they're also gone from these places. And you know, so in simple words, we're missing these these margins that I've nuked from here in the previous PR basically were in fact necessary, right? And I think I had them on all of the headings. Yes, exactly. So I'm gonna just put that back, but we're gonna do that a little bit intelligently here. So I'm gonna kind of do this guy, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and then we're gonna figure it out. And thank you everybody for your follows. Very much appreciated. Okay, so right, so we're gonna do something like that, and that now, if we go to our storybook over here, right, should suffice in that sense, right? We should have these things again. The problem now is whatsoever that we have associated this now with the rest of the project, right? Which is a little bit scary, right? So we need to figure out our YouTube. Good day. Okay, so as you can see I'm mapping these classes from my tip tap, right, to the rest of my components, which, you know, is not great because, you know, I don't want to have this thing here, right? So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do something like this. I'm gonna actually grab this stuff. I'm gonna put it somewhere here, and I'm gonna create a mapping which is slightly different, right, than this. So this is what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna say const get. Let's actually, you know what? Let's just not do it there. So let's get over here and let's create a function like a hash table in a way, but each property is going to be a function instead of a just a string like this. So I'm going to say const get typography class names, right? And I'm gonna hopefully yeah, exactly. So let's that's not what I want. So let's prime what is it called, Copilot a bit so it understands what I want. Okay, now it understands. Great. So we're just gonna autocomplete. It should hopefully get the paragraph in there as well. Beautiful. And yeah, this needs to be an object, right? So we'll need to return some sort of an object from here, like this, right? I think that's the old typography, right? With the exception that there's some exceptions, so I will actually, in fact, nuke this from here. And then what I'm gonna actually do is I'm gonna... So actually, let me just do this again. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna make each one of these things a function that takes in some classes, or whatever. We'll see in a moment. I need to think about it. And then it's going to return this. But each one of these calls is going to be a class name. So it's going to be this class names module that has this base thing. And then optionally, it's going to take these extra classes, right, that we give it, right? And this is going to be it can be a string or an array of strings. Let's just make it a string. Right, and then I'm gonna ask this. I'm gonna ask Copilot to be a little bit smart and do the rest for me. Right. Right. Exactly. So we do this. We do that. Right. Yeah. Because again, we have to build everything systematically as we have so far. We want this system to be cohesive. We want to make sense of things. Elia, good day. Discord. I don't know how to share Discord. I wonder if this thing is still accurate. Give me a second. Yeah, it seems accurate. Okay, so let me share it with you there. Where is it? How do I copy this thing? Give me 2 seconds. I'm trying to copy the link, but it's too hard. There you go. Okay, cool. So now we have this system. I like this, right? And it's basically a hash table. It's an object, right? So now over here, and you're gonna see an idea in a moment, I can do this, right? And I can say, that's a little bit weird though. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a little bit inefficient, right? I don't want to call this every single time or like this, right? Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't actually know. It doesn't really matter, right? And here I want to say something like this, right? And then you get the idea. We do the same in all of the other places, right? So it's just, and then we'll optimize this if need be. I mean, it's not the optimization that's necessarily, it's nothing that's worth really optimizing, but we can then run this by ChatGPT or Copilot to see if we can optimize this a little bit. But again, it doesn't really matter. It's not really important, right? Would you add some Easter egg? I'm not sure. What do you mean? Add it where? H6, right? And then lastly, we're gonna do paragraph, right? So this should be P, right? And probably we should have just created, I mean, we should have just, this shouldn't have even been a function, right? This should have just been an object, right? So that's maybe the optimization we should do, right? So instead of making this a function, because this doesn't really take any base thing anyway, right? So that's the optimization itself, right? So let's just do that. So this should be an object, right? We get rid of this, we get rid of this, we move this in here, and then we get rid of that, and now we have it, right? So now we can nuke all of these function invocations because they serve nothing, right? Yeah. And then we should probably rename this. Let's call this typography class names, right? Because it's not a getter of any sort, right? That's cool, okay, right? And now we can use this properly, right, in the classes. So yeah, exactly, okay. And then we can do a very similar thing, right? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to our typography. I'm gonna go to my H1, for instance. Did we actually export this thing? No. So we're gonna export this. Then we're gonna go to our H1, for instance, over here. And then we're gonna do something like this, right? And then we're gonna do an import. And then here we're gonna pass a class name, right? Optionally. And then we're gonna come here, and then we're gonna, well, we're gonna have to make these optional as well, right? So I'm gonna go and do this. I'm gonna do this, and I'm actually gonna call this as well class name, right? And then we're gonna go and do stuff like this, right? That's good, right? I think I like this a lot. Now, this is more Numinex friend. Good day. Always happy to see you, man. So this is good now. This I like a lot. This is what I landed at, I think. So now we're still linking two systems, our rich text editing and this, while still sharing the same style, so we don't have to worry about that anymore, right? We do this now, we import this stuff, we say H2 in here, and then we're gonna do the same for the other 4 or 3 things, right? I did stream last night, Numinex, very late. My wife and my kid went to sleep, and I think I started streaming at like 11 or something. And it was quite chill, man. To be honest, man, since I kind of stopped streaming like 2 months ago and continued now, I kind of had a lot of time to kind of think about this stream. And it's a lot more enjoyable now than before because I genuinely no longer care about viewers. I don't give a shit. Like, I just come, put some nice music. Few of you guys that I really like are here. It's really enjoyable, right? I literally impose no pressure on myself to stream or anything like that. So it's amazing, man. I really like it. Like, I literally haven't even seen, since I continued streaming now, how many people are watching and stuff. I literally can't care less. Like zero. I don't even have the number on my screen or anything like that. It's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it was very late. I wasn't supposed to stream. It was just ad hoc, as always, right? You know my streams. Exactly, Leo, 100%. Okay, Abbo is here, man. Good to see you again, dude. I remember all of my viewers, and I remember you, man. It's good to see you. How are you doing, man? How's life? And now, actually, if we take a look at where's this thing, example thing that yeah, now we're back to, I like this so much. Lovely, Jesus. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm really happy with this, really happy with this. You know what I'm gonna do, just for the sake of, organizing this stuff a little bit better, I'm gonna just reorder these things. So we have UL image anchor tag. So I'm just gonna do this. Thank you everybody for your follows. Appreciate it. So let's just do, what are we missing here? We're missing a UL, OL, and an anchor tag, right? Ouch. That's not what I want to close that. Anchor tag, where is this? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's do the same here with a paragraph. So let's say A. Beautiful. And then we're going to do the same with UL. So nice. And then we're going to do the same with OL, even though, again, we don't have these. And I do believe that we have an anchor component somewhere. We should have that as part of typography, right? Anchor. Yeah, we do have an anchor, right? So we should probably... okay. Yeah, here it is. Okay, that's a little bit weird. But let's make sure that they're the same, right? And so what we're going to do, we're going to say here, hey, you know what? Let me just do this. Let me do this. Let me go over here. Let me grab this bad boy. Let me do this. Let me import that. Let me say A here. And let's see the discrepancy between the anchor in the editor and the anchor in the rest of the project. Okay, so that is not cool, right? So we're gonna actually align them like this. That's beautiful. And we're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna make sure that our tests are passing. Man, please write the blog post. I mean, I don't wanna, you know that I don't ask people to do stuff because why would I? But if some of you could write a blog or two every week or two, I would appreciate that a lot. I mean, I would literally do my best that people read your stuff. I would share it on my LinkedIn. I would make sure to, So, I mean, this is kind of the only sad part, right? That is the beauty of the new platform, right? If some of you would write any of the stuff, I mean, I'm sure that people would read it way before they would read it on your own website, right? Because there's so very little content, right? That if you write something, there's a high chance that people will read. I will read it at least, right? So for sure, I mean, I would incentivize you to start, because that is the kind of the burden and the beauty of the new platform. The burden is there isn't enough of people, but the beauty is that no matter what you do, it's seen by these people who visit, right? I'm using a GitHub Copilot. Dude, I'm happy with this refactor. So nice, man. So nice. You see, takes a little while, right? But it's satisfying. That's exactly what I imagined deep in my head a day ago. It's just, it took a little time to materialize in my head. I mean, Numinex, right? As I showed you, right? If you ever, like, let me show you. If you remember, I started playing saxophone 3 weeks ago, right? And, I have a saxophone YouTube channel, right? So you can see, this is my saxophone YouTube channel. I made it 3 weeks ago. And as you can see, this is the video from the last night, day 26. So it's really good to track it's a good way to keep some sort of track, some sort of notes of your progress, right? This for me is like I sit here, I click record in my OBS, I finish the session, I just upload this in 2 seconds, right? It's going really well, man. I mean, it's you know, I wish, you know, if I don't have I have very little time in life because kid, wife, work, you know, and other things, but I do my best to play 1 hour a day at the very least, right? So, you know, it's my today is going to be my 27th day, and I'm going to obviously play today again, right? It's just very good to you know, just record yourself on your phone. You don't have to upload it to YouTube, right? It's just for me, it's way better to keep these archives of videos somewhere in the cloud than keeping them on my own computer, right? But fundamentally, yeah. Again, discipline is everything, right? Without discipline, everything is nothing. Okay, this is great. Awesome. So that's great. I can't wait for us to implement. Oh, did I show you the AI stuff, Numinix? I don't know if you saw, the Llama 3 is out, and I just tried it this morning. Let me show you. It's amazing. So I just have some bash aliases. So what was it? AI serve, and then we run a prompt AIP, right? Look at this, man. It's pretty awesome, actually. Is Rust better than C? Run and C are both system-level programming languages, but they have different design goal, philosophies, and use cases, which is better ultimately depends on your specific. But Numinex says that Rust is better. Numinex. Where is it? Where is the response? Where is the Numinex, man? I lost it. Numinex's statement about Rust being better than C is likely an opinion based on their experience with both languages. As knowledgeable and experienced developer, they might have valid perspective. No, I'm just trying to tease you a little bit. But give it a shot. It's an awesome model. I'm gonna set it up here locally this week on my server in my office here, and then we're gonna use it for the next week or two in the stream, just so we can say after 1 or 2 weeks use, we can then make a solid comparison between ChatGPT and Gemini, and then we can see which one is better, right? But and then we're gonna probably host it on Hetzner. I'm thinking to buy one more server and then just host it here, and then we use it. We expose it internally in a Docker network, and then and just expose it to my API. And then, you know, when you're writing blog posts, for example, it can you know, read proof your stuff. It can suggest things. You know, it can do various types of things. I'm actually looking forward, and we're gonna do that using the MindsDB, as I said, and then we're gonna do that using the Ollama and stuff like that. There's also this thing that I haven't played with. I don't know what this is. It's yeah. It's basically some agent or something like LangChain written in TypeScript. So this is also worth playing with eventually. Yeah. All right, cool. Did we deploy this thing? Did we deploy this thing? Is it pushed to npm? It is. Okay, beautiful. That's amazing. So let's go to our front-end project, and let's go here, and let's go to Yale, right? Yeah. So let's bump that, and let's install this. Ah, so nice, so nice. I love that. Beautiful. Okay, so if we go back to our front end now, these issues should be gone, and in fact, as we can see, they are. What I'm actually going to do, because right now there's really no need for these things to exist, even though I don't think that these white spaces have any effect in our tip tap. I don't know how I implemented that thing back then. But yeah, that's beautiful. That is amazing. Okay, great. And now if we take a look at other things, these margins should be gone. If we go here as well and all over the place, that's beautiful. We of course need to fix a lot of these things now and make them a little bit smaller and stuff like that. This also is pretty huge, but it doesn't really matter. And we then need to go and finalize the courses and all of this other stuff. Alright, you know what? I'm actually going to push this to production, even though it's not great. It's better. And then I have these HTML converters that I also centralized over here. Let's just make sure that we don't have any console logs and stuff. No, we don't. Okay, that's good. Let's go ahead and just deploy this to prod. I guess I did this by accident, right? Let's just discard this and see what happens. Where's the Alright, the syntax highlighting is there. Cool. Okay, let's just deploy this to prod. Who cares? Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, cool. That's great. There was one thing that I wanted to check. Which one was it? That works, right? Oh yeah, so this we need to change now a little bit. This is too large, just some tiny things, and then we should be done. Okay, so let's just go and go to some of these places. Let's see if there's any occurrences of this, because this stuff is no longer necessary, right? So we're actually going to do some global search and replace, right? We can just nuke all of this stuff. We say, hey, actually, that's no longer needed. So, ouch. That's unfortunate. Did we mess it up? Yeah, we did mess it up. Yeah, that is very unfortunate. It doesn't matter. Let's just revert and do it again. So we do this. You know what? We're gonna do something like this instead. Production is down? No, it's not down. Maybe you just clicked when it was deploying. Okay, and then let's just do this, and let's now globally search and replace. I see. Actually, I don't think that would be possible because of our CI, but my heart did stop. Okay, that's beautiful. And now, yeah, let's just clear up some of these things, super simple things, and then we can continue building more interesting stuff than wasting time with this crap. It's just hard with this typography crap, man, always. So let's search for H2. No, actually, you know what? Let's just do it there. Courses. So yeah, so okay, that's great. We have this thing, right? So in here we probably have an H2 or something, H3. Let's actually see what we have. I don't remember. We have the dashboard header, exactly. So that's a simple one. Beautiful. Yeah. This is too large now. And let's do the same. Do we have occurrences of this? Yeah, we do. Okay, we're gonna just globally search and place that as well. So we're just gonna do that, and we're gonna do this, right? And then we're gonna do that. Beautiful. Okay. And then here we're gonna say like H4 or something, right? Yeah, this thing here. That's more than sufficient, right? Okay, good. Paragraph, same stuff here. We have these things that are basically no longer necessary because, yeah. I'll just globally search for this. Okay, this is the last one I see, okay? And then, if we go back here, then I guess we have these... we have a few of these occurrences of use of this, and then each one of them has its own item, exactly. So we're gonna say h4. Which one is this? Articles, right? Yeah. So we go back here. Yeah, that's more reasonable. We'll need more spacing and stuff, but that's okay. So yeah, definitely h4. Let's do a few more that we have. Yeah, we have this one, bookmarks, item actions, paragraph, h2. So yeah, it's gonna be h4 as well. Gonna clean that one up. And if anybody has any questions, of course, or something interesting to discuss, please just do it. And then this one. And then lastly, right, we have this one. Cool, beautiful, amazing, super. Okay, and then lastly now we have this list, which we should be able to solve in one change. I suppose somewhere over here we have some grid or something. Flex call, maybe this one. Let me just do super large. Yeah, okay, there it is. Just distancing those dashboard elements from each other. Maybe we should even just do a little bit more here. Let's see. We have these things as well, which are part basically of each individual item, right? I wonder if they should be next to the titles or if they should be floated all the way to the right. I'm not actually sure. I don't actually think it matters at all. Where's this stuff? Item actions or some. No, this is what do we, okay, see. Yeah, this guy, right? So we have, yeah. All right, so if we get over here, what the heck? All right, cool. So that's maybe a little bit better, right? It should apply to all of the list items that we have, right? We'll definitely have to reduce the size of that. But this is maybe cool. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit easier. And then this thing, I think we should definitely push to the right. Item components. You know what? Now when I think about these things, right? It seems to me that, give me 2 seconds. Dashboard header, dashboard articles. We have this article item, right? And then there's item actions, right? So I wonder, maybe I could also solve this a little bit differently, right? I think I could basically, right? So if I would take this out of here and smack it alongside this generic component here. So if I could smack it in here, do this, right? Now technically we should see double of them. Yeah, exactly. But then I could clean a lot of these other things up, right? So I can search for item actions and just use them in a singular place. So for example, if I go to the bookmarks, now I should be able to nuke this. Meetups should be able to nuke that as well. Experience, thought, dashboard. Bexy, good day. Yeah, my wife and kid. My kid is a little bit sick, so they went to sleep a little bit now. So I'm like, okay, while you guys are getting some rest, I'm gonna go and do a stream or something. Okay, so that's cool, right? So in theory now, all of them should, work. That's beautiful. Now we just put it in a single place. That's great. So that's a nice optimization there, right? And then if we get over here, what we can basically do, just add a base class here. You can say flex, item center, justify between, right? And that should be great. It should push them all to the right of every single list, right? We can see that our Poppy, TP.js, whatever is it called, often goes, overflows, or moves out of the screen. So that's something we're going to have to take a look at. But now, if we go to any of these other guys, courses should be working the same. And it should, I hope, So we'll have to see about this now because it's a little bit weird. What happened here? Item actions, what happened here? Okay, so, thank you very much for the follow, appreciate it. Let me just see, do we invoke this action at all? So we do invoke the action. What is the item? So we do that indeed. So what happened actually? Or maybe, I see. Wait, dashboard. Give me 2 seconds, Bexy. I'm gonna get to you. So let's see what we had here, right? Yeah, I see. So it's a little bit different. Yeah, this kind of sucks slightly a bit, right? Because we have to do this based on a certain path, right? I mean, it's okay, right? It doesn't really matter, right? Because we could provide this via props anyway, right? So I'm just going to grab this and create some idea around it, right? So where are we now? In the courses, right? Yes. On item delete. Okay, so that's fine. So if we go back over here, so the problem here that, so this is all good, right? Who is invoking this on item edit? On item edit, okay. So technically, if we go back to courses on item edit, that's a bit weird. No, actually it's not weird at all. That's perfectly fine. That's exactly what we want, right? So that's great. That's awesome. That's basically how I planned it anyway, right? In a way, I guess. Is this getting an item? It is. Beautiful. Nice. There we go. Okay, good. I just forgot how I did it. Cool. So that's great. Okay, so we're using cookies to check the session of the user is still logged in or not. We're using HTTP only cookies, Bexy. Yes. So when a user logs in Programmer Network, the API generates a JSON Web Token and then responds by setting the cookie to the user's browser. And we set the HTTP only cookie, so the cookie cannot be controlled using JavaScript, right? So HTTP only cookie is essentially a cookie that cannot be accessed by your code. And we do this to prevent some security related things, right? So yes, when you log in, we generate a cookie, a JSON Web Token, and that JSON Web Token has an expiration date on it, right? So as you can see, generally, you have this IAT in a JSON Web Token, And you can see it's using the Unix timestamps, right? And this basically, usually there's an additional cookie, additional field that's encoded in the cookie, in the JSON Web Token itself. And I think it's like EXP or something like that. And then you have the number like this as well, right? And that would be, as you can see, it says expiration time now. Rebecca, oh my God, she is alive. What's up? Haven't seen you. We haven't seen each other in a long time now. How are you doing? And as you can see, if you go to Programmer Network, if you go to production, and if you inspect the actual cookies, right? If you go application, and you go cookies, you'll see here that it says secure cookie, and then HTTP only cookie, right? What have you been up to, Rebecca? And then you can see this is the encoded cookie. So if we go and paste it here, the signature is invalid because of this secret right here. Man, that's amazing. That sounds super fun. Hacking competition. Wow. That is crazy. That is crazy. But very good to see you, Rebecca. It's been so long. Ah, okay. And then, okay, we can also see here that we can optimize these selectors, right? I've been, Rebecca, not much difference. I've been playing saxophone, and I've been streaming a bit. As you noticed, I haven't streamed maybe in like 2 months or so, right? But not much difference. Work, kid, wife, and yeah, now streaming this stuff a little bit, right? That pretty much sums it up, to be very frank with you. I just want to, give me 2 seconds, I just want to optimize this selector a little bit. And then we're going to have to... I did a lot of work maybe a month ago. I rewrote the whole project in TypeScript. So that was a lot of work. As you can see now, the whole project is pretty much in TypeScript. This 17% is just configuration files and stuff. And when I said I rewrote, I just added types and stuff, right? So it's not rocket science. But then I did a lot of other stuff, a lot of cleanup, right? You know, I cleaned up a lot of dependencies and stuff. So you can see these are just the development dependencies, but production dependencies are minimal. So yeah, so I did, but then yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, like it's now what I'm trying to do now. Honestly, I'm trying to boost my YouTube channel. I want to get people to follow me there, and I need to, right? So I need to figure out, right, with the stream what it is that I want to do. And I'm mostly streaming just to answer questions now and stuff. It's not, and because it's fun. But when it comes to, yeah, you know, being productive, it's completely useless. It's a huge waste of time. Memoize, Redux selectors. Is this the one that I used? Memoize, Redux selectors. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. So that's amazing. So I'm going to get over here and I'm going to just do this. I think this is the prompt that I was using to memoize them all. Let me see. Was it this one? Yeah, it was. Okay, great. Let me just, give me 2 minutes. I'm just going to memoize some Redux RTK selectors so we don't have these useless re-renders. And we're going to call this dashboard meetup. So I'm going to go to my selectors. This is basically where all of my selectors are kind of centralized. And then we're going to, I think we already have this one. I'm sure that we have this thing already. Yeah. So we have this one. That's great. I'm gonna go all the way down. And then we have state data, user data, right? We don't actually have a user. That's a little bit weird. Ah, we do. Select authenticated user. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we're going to go. What's up with this scroll, man? So we have this one. And then, yeah, this is basically the selector that we should combine. So I'm going to get this fella. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to just use select authenticated user. Then this one. I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to call this select, what is this? View, this is dashboard. Dashboard, meetups, details, or whatever. It's very hard to name these, so I'm not going to bother, right? And then we're going to do pretty much this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to import the actual memoized selector here. I'm going to do this, and now we should be good, right? So now if we go to this view, we should not see that warning about our selectors not being memoized. And yeah, it's gone, as you can see, right? Organize a meetup. And now we have this one, which is great. We have a few more, right? This one is, yeah, and that's great. You can actually see that the re-render does happen. It's almost like something that re-renders the form once we get in and organize a meetup, right? You see, as I click, it's almost like something. So we need to fix that, right? So let's see, where is this one? So this is another selector that's not memoized, and we have that issue as well. So this is inside of organize a meetup. So I guess I have a form somewhere that uses some Redux state, right? Yeah. Interesting. So it's not this one. So let's look at the stack trace here very quickly. So if we take a look at that, no, yeah, this one is a more complex one. This is inside meetup form. So it's this one. Somewhere here we're using use app selector. Yeah, it's over here. Yes. Okay. So let's just give it to the robot, so robot can save us some time, because robot knows already. Autotechnic. I'm not sure what you mean. Do you do code reviews? Where? At my work? Or you mean in the stream? Yeah, we could do that, sure. We could do that, yeah. I mean, if you need help, send us the code and then sure. Yeah, I don't actually know. It's so hard to name these, man. So hard to name these. It's crazy. I mean, I'll only do it if I can do it in the stream, right? Otherwise, that it would be consulting, right? So if you're fine that I share it with the rest of the stream, then I'm do it. Otherwise, I will not. That's weird. I mean, whatever works for you, to be very frank with you, right? Whatever really works for you, I'm fine. Okay, beautiful. Absolutely, awesome. Let me know when you do, and then we can do some review. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this, yeah, this technically now is optimized. It's almost like still that there's something wrong with the. So this is not, maybe it's the duplication of the extension. We're gonna see about that. But why? Let's take a look at this. It's almost as if we're calling something here. So let's take a look. What is? I mean, I could do a little bit when my kid and my wife wake up. They're having some rest now. I could do that. The field is required. Why? Why are we getting that? That's so weird. It's almost as is there some effect here that might be doing that? Yeah, is it because of this? No, that's not a thing. Okay, good. What about this? Okay, what if I do this? Okay, so that is the issue, right? So why do we need that? I mean, we have the initial data, right? Yeah, so we have the initial state here, and it's set. Yeah, okay, so that was the issue. Okay, invite sent. Okay, let's take a look at that. Alrighty, so we're gonna do a little code review here. Where's the library? How can I find the library now? I just accepted your invite. Give me a second. Where can I? What is the name of the library so I can find it? Yeah, I don't know how to find your project now. Can you send me the link? Thanks. Jesus Christ, man. What is this crap? Why is it opening the stuff, man, in the applications that I don't even have fucking installed, man? It's so annoying. Jesus Christ. Okay, great. Alrighty, so we're gonna do a little bit code review here in the stream now. One of the viewers, just very quickly. So let's start from here, right? Well, you're missing a README clearly, right? Documentation is fundamental for developer experience. In fact, there's no worse enemy of developer experience than missing documentation, right? And documentation is something that I highly advise you to do from day one as you're programming. It has to be a dynamic living thing that goes one-to-one with your code, right? If you can push yourself to be great at documentation, you're going to be a great developer that everybody's going to like, and you're going to be leaving companies in a good state, and people are going to praise you. If you build bad habits and you neglect documentation, you're going to be bad at it for the most of your career, right? Documentation is one of the most important parts of every project, right? Especially infrastructure and stuff like that. So make sure you document things as you go, because it's the same with unit tests. Oh, let's just build it, then we're going to test it. It's the same fallacy like with documentation. Let's just build it, then we're going to write documentation. You will not, right? That's a lie. So remember that very well. All right, I can see you're using external fonts. That's fine, but not necessary to, this adds some overhead in loading these fonts. This is a useless description. This meta tag description is a description that's supposed to describe what your website does, not which technologies it uses, right? So this should say, this is an apple selling, banana selling product, blah, 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 right? So your meta description is wrong. Or maybe this is what you want, but if that's what you want, then that's great. Okay, but let's screw that. I can see you're using modules. Let me actually see that again. Source main JSX. Okay. So let's start there, right? We're going to start at the heart of your project. So it's a React app. See? All right. So I mean, no. I mean, you did everything right? So this is good, right? Of course, your code is not structurally organized, and that's good, right? You're learning, so this is good. You made the right decision, right? You're not overly stubborn or wasting time with structure too much. You're just building things, so that's great. I always incentivize people literally just build the whole app in one file when you're learning, and then break it out, right? Then let your suffering make your suffering work for you. You're gonna realize like there's no chance I can maintain this, all of these utilities and components, right? So absolutely, right? This is great, right? You just put a lot of stuff in here and that's fine. If it works, then break it out, right? Keep in mind that the structure is not always useful, especially when you're mocking stuff out, when you're learning. You have to switch between the files. You have to do a lot of things, right? This makes it a little bit easier to just build, right? This is almost like a sandbox playground where you have a single file, right? And then you can do some of these things. For example, you're using cookies wrong. Cookies are not meant to be storing data. You should be using either IndexedDB or local storage, right? Or whatever. Cookies are not really used for this, right? So you're using a wrong storage for a wrong problem, right? It's not that you can't use it, but this is not what cookies are for, right? Because cookies have a limit of 3,000 something characters, right? Local storage has a limit of 5 megabytes, and IndexedDB has a very, very huge amount of data it can store, right? Well, when you clear cache, cookies are nuked as well, right? Depending what cache you're referring to, right? So all of the storage is removed, right? So, but if you want to use something locally and you want it to behave like a kind of in-browser database, you should be using IndexedDB. In fact, you can use nodejs, which has a promise-based API. So you can do something like this. It's a little bit an overkill, but if you want to kind of practice with the real type of interface for the databases would have in JavaScript, you can have something like this. So basically with Dexy, what you do, and this is just a wrapper over IndexedDB. And also they provide a premium service where you can synchronize your local cache to the backend, right? They have this cloud service. But you can see here, you can basically have things like this, method chaining API, right? Like this, where you're, query my friends, where age between. So this is quite useful if you want to build offline experience and stuff. This is pretty awesome, right? And then you can even build your own synchronizing mechanism in the backend to synchronize this data locally. But you can see it has a very nice, so it removes a lot of static utilities that you have to write. Oh, I need to write find users by age. This gives you so this is literally a SQLite database in the browser. That's what IndexedDB is, right? IndexedDB, right? So this is basically it. And Dexy.js is just a wrapper over this because the underlying low-level API of this is not very nice. So this little tool makes it a little bit nicer. You can see a minimalistic wrapper for IndexedDB, right? So overall, I mean, I can find many things here that I can comment on, but I'm not, because this is fine. If you're learning, it looks clean, it's okay. You're not really handling these errors. This is useless, right? So you're not handling errors. So if something fails in your UI now, you're probably not even showing that error. So there's some of these things, right, that if you came to an interview as a junior developer to my work, I would definitely tell you these things, right? You always want to handle your errors. That's the most fundamental part of building a project, right? And you have also reversed the logic here, right? Because you should not be asking if there's no error. You should be asking if there is an error. So if error, do something. Otherwise, it's good, right? So your logic is a little bit the opposite, right? You should be asking if there's an error, right? Because you should be thinking about errors as first-class citizens, right? An error is the integral part of your tool or of your software. So you should be asking always if there's an error, do something, otherwise there's no error, so proceed, right? So this is, you're gonna rarely see code like this if there's no error, right? It's saying here, you have reversed the logic here. You should be saying if there's no user. So it is the opposite of the error. You're expecting user to exist, not to exist. So in a way here you want to say, find user. And of course, now this depends on how you want to implement this utility method, right? You might call find user only ever if the user is here. You can either handle that outside, or here you could say if there's no user, throw error, right? Hey, you try to, but this is also very, very weird, right? You should not be calling this find user. You should be calling this. So let me show you. So if you take this piece of code, right? So this code should be, you have few alternatives for this code, but I'm going to show you some. So first and foremost, this should be called find user by ID. It should take an ID, right? If you want to safeguard against yourself here, you can say if no ID, throw new error, ID is required, and then you proceed, right? And you should not be passing the whole user object because it's confusing, right? Then here you pass an ID, right? And this doesn't belong here. Your coupling, your function is not pure. Your function now has a side effect. This is no longer finding just a user. So this is one of the worst things you can do in programming. No matter who you are, senior, god mode, junior, right? Never do this, right? Your function should do one thing always. So this function should return a user or return no user. So this doesn't belong here. This line has nothing to do with this function at all. So this thing should, no matter what this yields, a user or not, who cares, right? Here, right, you should return data, right, or return users. Or you can build this, you can make this interface a little bit better, right? So you can either return a user or an error. You can do it basically go away or whatever, right? So you can either do this, if this for some reason actually yields an error, right? You can do this in various ways. You can do like user null and then error, right? So here you could say, if error, you can do this. Otherwise, do this, right? So you can see, find user by ID, handle if there's an ID is missing, try to get the users, there's an error, user is null, error is whatever the error is, otherwise get me the user, first user or whatever, and error is null. Now, when you use this thing somewhere, like this, you're gonna be like const await 1, for example, this is the user ID. Actually, you're expecting a UUID, so for you it's going to be something like this because it's a UUID format. And here you're going to have a user or an error. And then if you're going to say somewhere if error, whatever, otherwise do something with the user, right? And then of course here handle the error. Don't just print it, right? Now, this thing does one thing, and you can reuse it anywhere in your whole project. and it's always going to yield a user or an user error. If you want to be a little bit more pedantic here, you can also call these things a little bit more explicit. So you can call this user, and you can call this user error. This is going to save you a little bit of time, you know, needing to worry about shadowing variables and stuff, right? So you can do this instead, right? And then here now you're going to have a user and user error. This is useful because you might have some other calls here. You might have user articles, right? Imagine if you said like find user articles by user ID, right? Well, then here you would have articles and then maybe articles error or article error. You get the point, right? So this can prevent you to need to worry about aliasing your errors, right? So this is a nice pattern as well. I like this. I like to do this myself in my APIs, for example, right? So now you always have so now you have a system. You have a pattern. Again, not all patterns have to be defined by community, right? You are the one who is building your own system when you're coding, so you can build your own systems, right? You can decide with your team on these constraints, right? You can say, how about we always append, so if there's an error from our own API library that we're building, we're just gonna have the resource and then append a word error to it, right? And now you have a system. Now everybody in your team knows how to write these APIs, right? Cool. Okay, let's move on. Again, yeah, you're not handling errors. You are not, yeah, you should turn these things into services, right? Again, I don't want to go super deep because you're a junior, so I cannot expect you to write the code like a senior, right? But to give you the most feedback, yeah, you should have these things as services, right? So you should have a service, some service library or whatever to do these things. This is a very confusing piece of code. It says get translation, but then it says if there's no translation. I don't know what this means, right? So this seems off. This code is not easy to read, right? This also is not explicit. I don't actually know what this does, and this most likely doesn't belong here. This belongs in an abstracted utility function that does some of this transformation. I can see that you're splitting something that you get by a dot, so you're going to get an array here, but this is not clear, right? So if you turn this piece of logic into some utility that yields something that whatever it does, it's going to be a lot easier. This also doesn't belong here. This is another utility that you should just call a single function in here, right? So this sort of stuff doesn't belong in the effects, right? So if you take a look at this, right? This is too much stuff, right? It's too much stuff, right? It does a lot of things. So you can have things like get, you can say like sync, local, sync with, you can have something like sync with cookies, whatever. I'm just inventing shit out of my ass, right? Or, get cookies data, right? Or whatever, right? And then you will not do this thing like this, right? You can do stuff like this. Right? So you're going to do this, right? And then what you can do is you can simply say return. And you can say favorites. And I don't know what favorites is. I presume it's an object, right? So you can do this or null, right? And same here. You can do this, right? Cart, cookies, or null, or whatever the default object should be, right? Look how nice this is now, right? You have a simple thing that gets stuff from cookies, right? It does this, right? And then if we take this piece of code here, if we were to optimize it, right? You would have another function, right? Whatever, but here now you have this. And there you would be like const whatever, is this. And then you can have favorites and cart. And then you would be like, I mean, potentially you can do this like this, right? Or you can even just, if you hate these if statements, you can again do things like, you know, favorites, or actually cart. This depends what your default state is. But if we take a look at it, right? If we take a look at your initial state over here, add it to cart, right? So it's an array. Favorites is an array. Even better, right? That makes it so easy, right? So you can do this now, and boom, there you go. Right? So this piece of code now right, looks now like very different, right? How nice is this, right? Now it's so nice, right? If there's no favorites, make it an empty array, because if your initial state is empty already, there's not going to be any re-renders because we're still setting things to an empty array. It's already an empty array, so React is not going to do anything. It's going to figure out, hey, no dependencies have changed, so do nothing, right? I mean, heck, if you want to purely optimize this completely, right, you could just say here, you know, if no favorites dot length, you know, return, right? If you really want to prevent yourself from calling this, right? You know, or something like this, right? But again, this is tiny optimizations. But the point is, right, this now becomes this, right? Okay, cool. And these providers you should try to keep, you know, at the same place. It's very confusing. I saw that you have a provider in your main file. Move this browser router into the app, right? Because you should just render the app here and then have the clear picture of all of your providers in the same place. It gets a little bit confusing with that, right? So you should have your browser router wrapping this stuff here. So yeah, in simple words, break things into utilities, have a service for fetching, and then use the service in the utilities. So you can have some service called, you know, user API serve, you know, user HTTP service that has get user by ID, and then something else. Have, you know, some other HTTP service that does something. Then create separate utilities. You know, you can have class user utils or whatever. You can have class article utils, blah, blah, blah. Then use these services in there, etc., etc. You don't have to, of course, I'm not suggesting you use them here. And, you know, you can clean this up a lot. And then once you break these things down into different files, then things are going to look amazingly well, right? Code is really about writing good code, right? Is not some sort of a magic skill, right? It's just trying to apply common sense and try to seek for that simplicity. When you look at this, right, and when you look at the stuff that you wrote, right, this is not about being good or bad. This is just about seeking for that simplicity always, trying to figure out, how can I make this more readable? It's like you're writing a novel or a note to your girlfriend or boyfriend, and you want them to understand very quickly what you're doing, right? So nothing that I did here are things that you're incapable of. It's just basically, you know, common sense, right? So always try to seek for that stuff, right? And yeah, but anyway, I think that's it. I'm not going to get into all of the other components. I think you got the point. I assume that many other components have the same problem and they require some restructuring. But yeah, that's where I would start. And yeah. All right. Any other questions? My pleasure, man. And Leo, you've been asking some stuff. Do you use search engines like... we're not using Elasticsearch in Programmer Network right now because we don't need it. There's no such capability. There's no such requirement needed in the project, right? But at one point, if we need it, we're going to use it. Yes, absolutely. Elasticsearch is great. I worked for it several times so far in my career, and it's pretty awesome. Just give me 1 second. I want to do one very quick modification in our core library. So if we just close a bunch of this stuff over here, I'm just going to do one very quick thing because that's slightly annoying me, and I will just do this very quickly. So if we get over here, and I'm just going to very quickly go over here, and I'm going to go to CTA. Yeah, exactly, right, because it was really too big. Is there any other places where I'm using H2? Yeah, there's a few other places, right? That feels a little bit wrong. This should not really be. And what is this? This is author card. So author card. Yeah, that's better, right? And there's another thing. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, so let me just lastly run the tests, update the snapshots. So that should be fine. Let's just go to package.json very quickly. Let's update the version so we deploy it to npm as always. And let's go to our Git here and yeah, just slam this stuff to production to npm. So that's just a tiny little thing that bothers me past day. So yeah, so we're gonna push to master. Okay, Leo, getting back to that question in a moment. Oh, wow. Did I not stage this? I did stage it, okay. So let's just let the VS Chat Copilot generate some useless commit message. Git push. And then let's create a new tag. What is this 163? At one point, I need to rethink this semantic versioning for this library that we built. I asked about try catch. Shouldn't you use it on fetch calls and stuff like that can fail and you might not need to get up? You absolutely should. That depends on how you have abstracted away your fetching mechanism, right? So this really depends. Okay, so let's take a look at that, right? So the question is, shouldn't you use try and catch in your fetch calls, right? That really depends on how you implement your fetching mechanism. Think about it this way. Imagine that you have something like this. You're using Axios or fetch. So you have fetch, right? Let me zoom in here. Let's actually use JS bin or something, right? Like this. So let's imagine you're using Axios as I do, or fetch, or whatever. It doesn't really matter, right? So you have a fetch call here, and then this fetch, is a promise or whatever. You can build your own abstraction over this, right? You can have your own, request library that you build like this. It can be just a function or a class. Here you can have something like, fetch of your own, or like, get, right? And you can abstract this out in a try catch, right? So here you can have fetch and then whatever, some URL, and then .then, right? And then you can basically wrap this in a promise yourself. So you can say return new promise, right? You can have a resolve and reject. And here you can basically do this, right? For instance, one of the random examples, right? So you can build your own wrapper around really any HTTP client. Doesn't really matter what you use. In this way, right? You can either do it like this, or you can do it in a different way, right? So it really depends on how you design your HTTP client library. How do you want it to work? Do you want to wrap every single thing in a try catch whenever you use it, or do you want to have a nicer way to deal with that? So for example, instead of doing even this, right? We could just do like that thing that I just showed you, like we did with the Go, right? So you could basically build it in a way that eventually it yields, you know, either the result or it yields the error, right? So it's up to you to design how you want your clients to work, right? I think the worst thing is to use this natively, right? Because every single time you have to either try catch it or use a promise-based API, right? So it really depends how you use it, right? You can do so many of these things with basic abstractions, right? You know, I'm using Axios with Axios cache, right? So I love Axios, and I extended it with this. Give me 1 second. My wife is... Give me 2 seconds. So yeah, but yeah, there are many things you can do, right? So there's the answer is really like, yeah, you should handle. The answer is more general than you think. You have to handle your errors, and should you wrap things in try catch or not, that really depends on your strategy and how you're dealing with these things, right? So there isn't the right or wrong thing, right? You definitely wanna, whenever you see that you're repeating something too much in your code, well, what do you want to do? Well, you want to try to reduce that. How do you reduce that? Well, sometimes the abstraction is the solution, right? You're saying, man, whenever I see some of these things, there's always this try and catch. It's annoying. Because keep in mind that exception handling is a terrible pattern, right? I'm not a fan of how Java, like Go has a very verbose error handling, but it's really genuinely treating errors like first-class citizens, and that's what I like, right? So if you remember, right, in Go, right, for example, you always treat the errors the same as you treat values, right? So, you know, you're like, call some fn, and every fn either yields an error or the result. That's a beautiful pattern. It's a verbose pattern, but it's beautiful. JavaScript exception handling, it's terrible, right? I've been writing JavaScript for 20 years, and I still hate it. Because you can just be like, try, you know, a bunch of code here, right? Of code here. And then if it fails, who cares, right? I mean, we're going to get that thing in here, right? So it's not the pattern that necessarily that's bad. It is the mindset that it creates, right? Because you are calling here 15 functions or 3, f and 1, f and 2, and you don't really care, right? And this way of controlling errors is very difficult, right? Because what if these two things, what if this one failed, right? You're just like, now I have to come here and say, you know, if f1 has failed, right? Well, do this, right? So you have to do these crazy if statements. You have to have your functions return meaningful reason errors or types so you can figure it out. Isn't it nicer if you, instead of doing this, you say, well, you know what? I'm going to treat my errors as first-class citizens. So here I'm going to say, you know, whatever, var data error, right? And again, you have to, if you build the system nicely, so this can be fn1 error. It can be fn1 data, right? And you get the point. Then you do the same. You can see this is verbose, yes? But verbose doesn't mean bad, right? It just means that you care, right? So if you have to trade convenience for verbosity, I would always trade it for this type of verbosity because, yes, it's a little bit annoying, but you're thinking about your errors constantly. The language itself, the pattern itself is telling you, hey, dude, errors are not something irrelevant. Errors are critical to your system. Think about them as in no lesser value than your actual values that your function might yield. Versus, again, let's just wrap everything in a try catch. Who cares, right? I mean, if it fails, we're just gonna print it. That kind of sucks, right? So, and you don't actually have to use try and catch. So this is more, Leo, to your about you don't have to use it. You can write. The problem with people who are absolutists is that some people think that you must write the code in this language, this or that way. You don't have to, man. You can write this part of code in JavaScript like you would do in Golang, right? And that is the beautiful part of JavaScript and a terrible part of JavaScript at the same time, is that it's a very loose language. You can write it as you would write C#. You can use Lambda.js and lodash and write it like how you would write Haskell, right? You can use class keywords and write it, as I said, C# or C++. But the beauty of it, if you know some of these languages, you can pick the nice things from them. You can use recursion if you want. You never have to use a for loop again. You can just, okay, let me write Haskell.js, right? So the point is, you can embrace this pattern and just say, with my team, I'm going to treat errors as the Go does it. You can do that, of course, right? And it heavily depends, of course, then how, to the previous discussion, how do you wrap your, let's say, HTTP library, or really any service library, any external service that you're calling. You're going to kind of maybe internalize this to the functions, to the services, to whatever patterns you're using, right? But yeah, I try to avoid, and I can show you, for example, let's take a look at the Programming Network API. I'll show you some examples of exactly putting my money where my mouth is, right? So if you take a look at, for example, upload avatar, right? If you take a look at this logic here, this came to my mind, right? You can see my upload avatar logic pretty much here, right? So uploading a file to an external service, in our case Cloudflare, many things can fail, right? Here we have handle image upload. And you can see handle image upload either returns an error or an image, right? If we go in here, we have buffer, parse image. The parse image returns a buffer or an error. Okay, cool. Is valid image returns is valid or invalid image error. So you can see exactly what I'm telling you now, right? Every function, every method we have here either returns some results or an error. I have a try catch here just in case there's something that I didn't cover. Actually, there isn't. I did cover everything, but it's just because we are in a land of JavaScript, we have access to this utility. It would be silly not to put it in a try catch. But you can see each one of these methods actually yield one or the other, right? Because now you can see, right, if it fails here, I don't need to scroll down and do so. Every single function itself now has this. And if we go to the decorators here in the API, if we take a look at parse image, this is what a parse image does. Parse image itself has a try catch, and parse image handles its own error, right? So that we of course have to use try catch on the micro level because there's no other way in JavaScript to do it. But you can see here, we try to parse the image, we get the buffer, for example. If everything's fine, we do this, and then we construct, right? So that's basically exception handling versus just treating the errors as a first-class citizens. I would highly advise, whenever you can, to do this. I think it's amazing. I'm currently deciding whether to go with the... let's actually discuss that. Let me just switch back here. What the hell is happening, man? Let's just chat a little bit like this. Give me 1 second. So, yeah. I'm currently deciding whether to go with Postgres or Mongo for my new React Native, but I don't know how to choose. I mean, that question is incredibly simple, right? MongoDB and Postgres are vastly different databases, and they solve different problems, right? These questions are a little bit dangerous as well, right? Because a choice of your database is fundamental to the success of your product, right? There's nothing worse you can do in your project than use a different database, because that's going to change the entire trajectory of your project, right? Your whole data model is going to define how you build your API, how good and efficient your queries are, or how inefficient they are, and then how terrible your UI is in the front end, because now getting some data, it just requires a lot of computation, terrible queries and stuff like that, right? So if you know what your plan is for your application, that question should be fairly simple to answer. What type of app is that? Is it an application that has a lot of relational logic? It has a lot of things like a friend of a friend has liked this book or whatever. Or is your application a to-do app where you can just store a flat document that has very little correlation to anything else? This should be. So which database you should use should be based on your requirements. It's not like I can just use whichever one I want and then, you know, I just have to choose. It doesn't work like that. That's like saying, should I use a hammer or a jigsaw to nail to put a nail in the wall. It's not that type of a choice, right? So choosing a database requires you to define what it is that your project needs, right? Postgres is a relational database. MongoDB is a schemaless database, right? And they solve entirely different problems, right? You cannot build you can, but you shouldn't use MongoDB if you need relations. That's a simple thing. Yes, but I can, I can use Mongoose and I can use populate and I can store these MongoDB IDs in subdocuments. That's a terrible idea. Super terrible idea, right? That's not what MongoDB is made for. People are taking technologies which are inherently made for certain types of problems and they're trying to make them fit other problems. Mongoose.js, for example, is one of the biggest ironies of libraries out there. You have a MongoDB database which is schemaless by nature, has no schema, has no relations, and then somebody decided to build a Mongoose.js so they can add fake relations and they can add validation and other stuff, which I do support, right? So these types of things are very, very, very dangerous, right? These tools are used for entirely different things, which is why people get disappointed eventually, right? Postgres in 90% of the cases is the database you want to use. Postgres or MySQL, right? So that is in most cases what you want to use, right? So MongoDB has some use cases, but for most projects, it's not a database that you should use, right? The main reason why a lot of junior developers use MongoDB is, number one, MERN stack that you can learn on the street, on a corner of your building. You're sitting on a bench and there's like a MERN stack below the bench, or in a trash bin, right? MongoDB has done an amazing job creating their REPL in JavaScript, their drivers in JavaScript. So people who start with basic JavaScript, they can already have like get document by ID. MongoDB stores their documents inside of the collections as JSON objects, which is very natural to JavaScript as well. So this is why a lot of younger developers use MongoDB. They don't have absolutely no clue about design, like designing the data models or anything. It's just MongoDB comes very handy, right? So yeah, you have to make these technical decisions based on your use cases. If you need a lot of relations, if you need to do joins, if you need scalability as well, Postgres is always, almost in every scenario, better. And on top of that, of course, it's a lot cheaper to host. You can host Postgres anywhere on GCP, AWS, Hetzner, anywhere for very, very cheap. MongoDB is very expensive on scale, right? So for you building a Hello World app, it doesn't really matter. So these costs don't matter at all. But when you're using MongoDB in production, it's a very expensive product. It's a very expensive product. So don't forget about that, right? So yeah, that marks my answer on Postgres versus MongoDB. The thing is, again, MongoDB is made really for flat structures, flat documents that have no really schema defined well. And this is an amazing use case that it covers. If you have a lot of unstructured data, you have data that sometimes has these properties, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes they're missing, sometimes they're different. MongoDB is great. If you have a well-defined data model, my user has these things, you are getting a lot of value having table constraints and a lot of these things. Like table constraints are literally you're getting validation to some degree for free and security for free, right? And you're getting the structure that you have to kind of know up front. If you don't know your structure, if your documents vary in properties, in types, yeah, MongoDB. And it's very important to say MongoDB has nothing to do with Mongoose and these relatively stupid abstractions, right? because people who wrote Mongoose, they wanted MongoDB to look like relational database, which makes absolutely zero sense. If you want MongoDB to have joins and stuff like that, then you should be using Postgres or MySQL. That's basic logic, right? AutoTech, that's a very general question, my friend. That I cannot answer because you need to put some effort. So go, there's a bunch of resources online. I'm sure that there's millions of tutorials on YouTube and Postgres. So that's a very, we would now need to talk about basics of databases and stuff and drivers and stuff like that, right? So let's maybe not go there now, right? I mean, honestly, I'm hosting Postgres myself, and if I'm using at work, we're hosting it on GCP. Postgres is amazing in every sense of that. You know, I'm not using these abstractions like Superbase and any of that. I have nothing against them. It's just I love Postgres as a basic database. In most cases, it solves pretty much all you need. It's truly Postgres is something that everybody should learn to some degree. It's truly like such a simple database. It's great, right? Zoda, my friend, good evening. Good day, sorry. It's going very well, man. I haven't streamed in a while. I started streaming again a couple of days ago. It's going really well, man. What about yourself? How are you? How's life? Julius, if you're new to the projects, then it doesn't matter, man. Like one of the things that a lot of you youngsters are deprived of, and I find that very sad, right? Let me tell you one thing. Like when I started programming, I was very young. This was maybe, let's say 25 years ago is when I probably wrote my first code. I'm 35 now, right? And I wrote Pascal, COBOL, and stuff like that. PHP 3, PHP 2, Visual Basic 6. I remember in these times, man, there was no resources. YouTube didn't exist. So this sense of failure every day when you were learning something was amazing, man. I actually even miss that today. For you guys, I mean, you are literally, arguably never built a project maybe yet in your life, and you're already asking a scaling question, right? This just proves my constant things that I'm repeating. You guys are so influenced by content that it's seriously scary, right? I mean, you have never built a project, right? Like, why does it matter which database you use, right? It has no impact on your progress on that project. You don't even need that database. You can store things in a file, right? It's like you can literally use a Node.js, if you're using Node.js or Go, just literally write stuff to a file, right? So you get what I mean? It's like you guys are so influenced that I genuinely feel bad for some of you. Because it must be so hard for you to even try something. You try this thing and then some asshole on YouTube tells you how is that has been built 2 seconds ago. How dare you even use that, right? Like you are asking such a premature questions that it's unreal. All of you, I mean, most of the questions I get here is like, yeah, but if I build my Node API, is it gonna be scalable? Scalable for what, man? You haven't even started building it and you're thinking, about will some API, I mean, I've been programming professionally for 17 years and I haven't yet built any API or UI that ever had scaling issues. Because you're talking about hundreds of thousands of users using your product, right? So it's like you're so influenced. It's scary. Like it's putting so many of you in a bad place. Instead of just being interested in building something with some technology, you're just in this vicious circle of frameworks and libraries and databases, right? It's like... It's crazy, man. I mean, I genuinely feel bad. Like I literally think that when I was learning to program for the first time, that I was advantaged over the situation today. Because you could get a book. I literally remember I had a PHP 3 book. I got it from my dad's friend who was working in a government institution in the city where I was. Dude, I got that book That's for me, that was like a single source of truth. Like, that's the only thing I know, right? And you would just use that, right? I would open it at home, I would read it. I had no idea what the hell is happening. I was like 11 or 10, right? But I wasn't influenced, right? Today, man, you start learning something, you guys go to YouTube, it's like, why are you using, right? So it's like ridiculous, man. Like, dude, Jesus Christ, man. I mean, it must be really hard for you guys. I mean, it's crazy, dude. It's crazy. Just build things, man. Pick some shit. Pick anything, right? Just build things. Who cares, man? These libraries come and go every 5 seconds, man. Don't allow yourself to be brainwashed by these people who live off of content, right? They're selling you this crap and you're consuming it every day. Oh, yeah, give me more frameworks, right? Just build anything, man. And then build something better, and then build something better after it, right? Otherwise, you will never build anything, right? It's just, Jesus Christ, man. Every 3 seconds, there's a new technology that you're being killed in mentally, right? It's crazy. Very scary stuff, man. I don't know, man. Like I literally miss this. I genuinely, after all these years, miss this feeling of unknown. Like, you just pick something you randomly heard from a guy, and you just like use it and you learn it, right? You were never obsessing about these wars of technologies. Like, look at this guy using React, what an idiot. Or look at this guy using Vue.js, it's like, what the hell happened? But that is the problem. Whenever something on this planet becomes mainstream, you have a bunch of these idiotic hipsters and stuff who just ruin these things. Programming, man, a decade or two ago wasn't like this. Now you have these hipsters with their shitty stickers and tattoos on their necks and their mustaches and green hair, dyed hairs, telling you all of this crap, man. This is not what sweaty development was about, right? But that's just how it is. It's just, yeah. I have a video on YouTube. It's called Influencer Driven Development. I'll share it with you. Well, that's what it is. What can I say? Try to build things. Try to focus on building things versus just watching people sell you that content that you're drowning in every day. Use any technology you want. Who cares, man? Like, at the end of the day, if you don't build anything, it doesn't matter. Or if you build something that's entirely useless, it can be the best technology out there. If it's useless, it's still useless. No matter if it's built in Rust or JavaScript or whatever. If you build something that's useless, it's fundamentally useless, no matter the technology, right? So that is the rule you should be driven by, right? If you don't build anything, then, I mean, who cares, man? Yeah, actually, you sent that yesterday. I'm sorry. Let me grab the link again. Give me 1 second. Jesus Christ, why is it opening this? I don't even know what that is. Add some description here. No, no, absolutely. Of course, it all boils down right to the reasoning why you're doing it. Don't take me wrong, right? The point is, I agree with you 100%. It doesn't matter what you're building. The point is, if you don't build anything ever, then it doesn't really matter. That's what I mean. Ah, okay. Here's the examples. I see. So basically, so the idea of this, I suppose, is to be. So where would you use this? Let's say, I guess you would use this with an HTTP, right? So you want to encode some data and then decode it on the other end. Is this the idea? I've seen something like this already, and I like the idea because you basically, so you basically save up some bytes, right, by doing this, right? I mean, yeah, I respect this, man. This is awesome. This requires some certain type of knowledge, right? Yeah, Julius, I'm in central Copenhagen. Yeah, this is great, man. I respect this. This is awesome. You just need better marketing a little bit here, right? Fill this a little bit. Put some stuff, right? Yeah, for sure. Just make it a little bit more shiny, right? It looks. There's no matter what you do, man, marketing is needed in a way, right? People like shiny things. So just put some image here. Make it easier for us to try this out, because now for me to try this out, I need to go and clone this, right? And, so just make it a little bit more human friendly, right? It's always the best to start, bottom down. I want to click on try out instantly. I want to see a demo and then read the code if I need to, right? So the question is, what does this solve for me? This is a very technical thing and it's amazing, but this doesn't explain what this is for. This explains what this does in a technical sense, but it doesn't explain what it is for, right? And if you do that, this is amazing, right? Right? People, our attention spans are so non-existent today that, nobody's gonna come here and read the source code, right? What is this for? What problems can it solve? What does it improve? And then you can get into technical stuff, right? If people care. But I gave you a star, so nice one, man. Great effort. That's awesome. In Van Luce, nice Julius, man. It's been a while. I've been in Van Luce maybe a couple of months ago. We have some friends there. Matty, my friend, good day. How you doing? But I always like to see the great effort, man. Like, just building things is all really that matters. Everything else is just a cheap talk, right? As my friend said long ago, everybody can say it, very few can do it, right? So talking is meaningless, really, in most cases, right? Just appearing cool in front of others. But that doesn't work for long. I don't use headless UI. I mean, that's just, I don't know where is that used. I have built my own UI library, which is this. I mean, I advise you to use libraries. I advise you to use libraries when you need them, right? I cannot advise you any specific libraries, right? This project, Programmer Network project, is a very different one. It's not a great case of ship fast, fail fast. I built this whole platform on the stream, which means, I built the UI library, I built the validation libraries, and, would I do that if I'm building a real commercial product? Of course not. That takes a lot of time. It's very expensive, right? So depends what it is you're trying to achieve. There's vastly different paths when you're trying to build a quick startup that, you want to either succeed or fail quickly, or some product like this, I build this out of passion and fun, and I absolutely don't care how long it takes. If it takes 1 day or 10 years, I do this when I want, and then I stop doing it when I no longer want it, right? So that is basically the difference, right? So, of course, if you're building something for the sake of business, use every possible library you can, because you need to fail very fast or succeed very fast, right? If you don't believe me, try investing your own money into a company and then see how that's going to feel. A headless UI in the package JSON. That's interesting. What do I use this for? Maybe just one place. Yeah, I'm going to remove this very soon. Actually, do I still need this crap? What is this used for? Dialog. Slide-in panel. Do I use this slide? Ah, okay. Yeah, I know. I think on mobile we're using this, right? Yeah, this is super ancient. I think on mobile, if we take a look at mobile, right? I think if you do this, we have the slide-in panel. Yeah. If you're like on mobile and you wanna share a thought or whatever, right? So that is the only thing. I even actually forgot about it. Yeah. But that's, I'm gonna nuke this very soon. Actually, I don't even know why I have this installed. What is the size of this package? Let's just install import cost. I thought that I have it installed. I think I do actually. No, I don't. Okay, that's weird. And where was this thing used? It's used over here, right? So what is the import cost of this? Let's just reload this. Yeah, that's weird. I don't actually know what the size of this is, but that's what it is. What did I want to say? Yeah. So what did we do here? What? Oh wow. Okay. So yeah, we can push some of this stuff to production. Now store. What did I do with the selectors? We optimized some selectors there. Kind of optimize some of this crap, right? Yeah. So let's just push this with a useless commit to production already. So let's just make this fella generate some stuff. Where is this thing over here, right? Yes. Man, what is this crap, man? I think Slack is opening these links in a sub window. They're probably getting started with Postgres in your React app. Wow, that's a weird title. I hope you're not going to be querying your database from your front end. Update query. There's a quote by Bill Gates that he said maybe 30 years ago. He said, measuring the progress of project by lines of code is measuring the progress of building by weight. I remember that one. Well, I truly hope that you're not going to be calling in some way. Yeah, actually, never mind. Yeah. So this is a good one. Yes, you can follow this. And as you can see, he's using pgadmin here, which is the most popular graphical user interface client for Postgres. So yeah, this is something that looks good to follow. Yeah, for sure. For sure. This looks reasonable, right? Here you're going to create a small API that's going to be connecting to your database, and then your client is going to be calling that API, right? So yeah, I would say this is pretty meaningful. Looks great. Looks like a well-written article. So absolutely go for it. Yeah, go for it. Let me just go to production. Okay, so yeah. Okay, that's not too terrible at all, I think. And then we should start really web development bootcamp. So it is published already. That's a little bit weird, right? Courses. Oh yeah, so this is in production, ironically. Okay. Well, I'm hosting my whole infrastructure on Hetzner myself, and then I'm using GitHub pages for Cloudflare pages for frontend. I make these mistakes regularly, Maddie, so that's fine. As long as you have a well set up CI that basically can, where you can revert things quickly or whatever, that is perfectly normal. There's no shame in that, right? There's really no shame in that. Okay, so these types of things I'm going to go off stream because I need to design this. I need to get back to these features. We need to freaking finalize them. Hopefully one day. Ado, a little bit of a long subject again, right? Oh, I didn't. A little bit of a long subject again. I think I have a video on my infrastructure if you want to watch it. I think I posted it on YouTube. If you want to watch it, it's Katzner or something. Just so I don't... Yeah, here it is. I explained the whole programmer network infrastructure here. My pleasure. Alrighty, so this is okay, right? This is great. My pleasure, man. Thank you for asking all of these things. Yeah. But it happens, man. I mean, the one who works, makes mistakes. I mean, the only person who doesn't make mistakes in leadership or code or whatever is the person who doesn't do anything, right? So that is, as long as you take ownership of things, right? It's amazing, right? I mean, that's all that matters, right? You're not expected to make mistakes, right? I mean, it would be silly, right? It would be a pretty tragic world if the only person that doesn't make mistakes is the person that actually, doesn't work or is dead, pretty much, right? My team makes mistakes all the time, right? But we deploy code 30, 40 times a day, right? We have a very fast-paced stuff in that sense, but this is the philosophy that I have. No big PRs, right? Whenever you have... So this is an art of programming, right? Knowing how to break your tasks is a skill that not many developers have. And you can be a senior, god level, whatever, knowing how to break your tasks down into meaningful chunks so you can release them in version 0.5, version 1, version 2. This is a skill that takes many years to master, right? And some people are just inherently more organized and better than this than others. But if you haven't built up these skills, you should start doing that sooner than later, right? Because knowing how to break your tasks down and stuff is fundamental, right? I put a slash on the back. Yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. You should just get in a habit with your team to deploy as much as you possibly can. In small incremental things, that makes code reviews easier, it makes everything easier, it makes reverting things easier, right? So once you establish these workflows, right? Yeah, I mean, the thing is, right, like, as I'm sure that most of you know, right, if you deploy 3,000 lines of code in a PR, nobody is going to ever review that. That's absolutely impossible, right? And stuff like that. So there's so many reasons why you want to, employ such a workflow, right? Because pushing thousands of lines of code in a PR, I mean, you might just as well merge it, right? Because nobody's going to review that, right? And you should, in your organization, you should completely disallow that. You should not even allow such things to happen, right? Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so that's just my take on it, right? Okay, so now we are reaching a point where, in a couple of streams, hopefully. So once we finalize, like once we improve all of these features, it's been long overdue. Next project I want to integrate as part of Programmer Network is projects. Because several people have asked on Discord and before in the streams, I want to have this project idea, I want to find developers and stuff. So I think implementing some sort of projects or whatever is going to be probably useful to some degree, right? Oh. The thing is, I mean, let me tell you one thing. How can you become way more reasonable developer, right? Or professional in general? This is the best advice you will ever need. Whenever you are in doubt, ask yourself, what if this was my company and it was my money? So what if the technical decisions I'm making, what if I was paying for them? Oh, should we rewrite everything in X? If you're going to pay for it, go for it, right? And your perception is going to suddenly change so much that you're going to change fully as a professional, right? So whenever you're in doubt and you want to make these stupid decisions, ask yourself, would I do this if this was my company? If it was my money that I invested, right? Well, I mean, we are running everything in Linux, right? All of these services are running in Linux, right? But streaming from Linux is not very great experience, right? Even this microphone doesn't have proper drivers for Linux, right? My lights, my camera, none of that. There's no official drivers for Linux, right? So that's the only reason why I'm using Windows, is that all of these tools that I'm using to stream, they suck on Linux, right? If they didn't suck, of course I would be, this is just my streaming computer, right? So so it's not necessarily a conscious decision. It's mainly not really a research dev. Even though we could get away, right? We would, when it comes to iframes, right, and CSP, content security policy, right? You would just enable some of the things in your CSP, right? Some certain iframe directives and stuff like that, right? But apart from that, no, not like that. Literally, just projects feature in the front end where you can seek for people, right? You can just seek for hey, I have a project idea. I need to find more people. We'll see, right? We'll do this together anyway, right? Why is this? This is so weird, man. Why is this requiring a key? What the fuck? Did I accidentally? Wow. Okay, really? Let me just go to Louis Gui. What was the name? No, this is not in. What? Wow, that is super weird. Key, what? Oh, wow. Wow, that is weird. Okay, that is weird. That's an accident. Okay. Well, I mean, that's going to be there as well, right? But we will feature these projects on the feed, right? So when you go to Programmer Network feed, once we implement the feature, we can feature them as part of the posts here or maybe on the sidebar. But that would be nice, where you can share your project and then people can give you feedback and stuff like that. I think that would be a pretty okay feature, right? I'm just trying to have 0 warnings or errors or anything. So I was just going to a few of these places. We had 2 of them. I want to make sure there's no issues anywhere before we kind of start slamming this other stuff. Okay, cool. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go here. Yeah, this is kind of terrible, right? Yeah, we'll have to do eventually something with this. It's so hard with some of these features, man, when you have no users and when things are not really used and stuff. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. We have this course card which has this big ass title, right? So that's maybe another issue we're having with the card. I don't know. If we go back here and we go to our card component, the core one. Ah, that's the wrong project. Yeah, so this is the problem, right? Yeah, that's a little bit weird. So, give me a second. Oh wow, okay, that's weird. What? Oh, okay, wow, what the hell is happening here? Are we being updated? Ah, it's no, actually no. But it is a course card here, right? Oh shit, I'm using the okay, I see what's happening here. I'm not using the course card from the core library. That's a little bit weird. Because maybe this is a different one. Okay, I see. No problem. Let's clean this up a little bit. And what is this grid that we have? We have 3 items per grid, right? Yeah. That also kind of sucks a little bit, right? So let's do this too, right? Yeah, this kind of sucks, but what can I do? We have no content. I'll need to write some courses or whatever eventually. It takes time. All right, these things I'm going to do off stream because they're very boring. Okay, let's see if we have any more discussions. Let's see if there's anything people want to get my brain on at least, or some opinions. Because some of these things, yeah, some of the stuff that I'm doing now is not very fun, I must admit, to watch. Even though we could do something else. And I'm just gonna, let's see if there's any other interesting remarks or whatever that I can share my views on. As Cartman would say, Cartman from South Park, don't be shy. No, that was the waiting for the saxophone part of the stream. Yeah, shit. I don't know if I feel like doing that now. I didn't eat yet. But you know what, Rebecca? I'm going to give you my new YouTube channel for my saxophone, right? You can just see my practice. It's been 3 weeks. So at the very least, until we can play it in the stream, I'll just share it with you. There it is, just for you, Rebecca. Give me 1 second, my son is saying something. That's a fine trade-off, exactly. So you can use that until, yeah, you know. All right, guys, is there any some interesting remark that I'm muted. Did I mute myself again? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, man. Beautiful, beautiful. What's up with the music? All right. Well, now I guess you should be able to hear me. What's up with my? Okay, never mind. It's fine. All right. So, any questions, any remarks, anything that you guys want to discuss before I head off? What did I want? Oh yeah, if you guys want, please follow my YouTube channel. I would appreciate that. If you like what I'm doing here, just give a subscribe there, and don't forget to sign up on our network if you want. Again, if you don't, I mean, I don't care. But if you haven't, just FYI, please do it, right? Because if you're here, that probably you like what I'm doing. Studio link, okay. I'm such a great streamer. I'm completely prepared for this. I love it. He shared his email link. Dude, I've been streaming for like a year and I still don't care. Building an API is the easiest part of the product in most cases today, right? Building an API is the most generic thing you can do, right? Especially a basic CRUD API. Almost AI can fully generate it for you. The reason why user interface is hard is because it involves user experience. It has to work on your phone, in multiple browsers, and there's so many things, right? So building an API is not rocket science. That is one of the easiest things you do as part of the full stack web application, right? You could say that building a proper data structure, data model, or a database, you could say that requires some thinking, some planning. But building a CRUD API is no matter the language, yeah. Should you still make websites that work without JavaScript current year? I don't honestly think that we should have ever built that. I mean, there's such a small percentage of human race that even knows what a JavaScript is, let alone who want website without JavaScript. That, I mean, I don't think that business world ever considered this percentage. I don't think that anyone in the business world ever mentioned this group, right? Usually these are some sort of a sweaty basement dwellers who believe that lizards are amongst us and that Earth is still flat, and they think that JavaScript is gonna, send radio waves so they get cancer, right? So who cares, right? These are absolutely relevant things in my experience, right? In my business experience, right? I've never met a customer that I had a call with who is like, man, I like your product. I just wish that it hasn't been running JavaScript. Come on, right? Let's be real here, right? Hey, we would like to buy your product. Can you run Rust instead of JavaScript in the browser, please? And, just take our money. Like, come on. Nobody ever said this, right? So we have business world and reality. Then you have these basement dwellers who, who get boners when they hear some of these things, right? You're running JavaScript on your website, fucking noob. I mean, come on, man. Like, grow up, you know. Wake up, grow up, right? Anything can be a security risk. From all the security risks, JavaScript is the least risk, and the browser, right? So literally everything else is a greater security risk than that. So if you would start removing security risks, JavaScript would be the last security risk, right? You have the server, the networking layer, the API layer, social engineering, and so many other things. JavaScript falls as one of the least relevant of these, right? So I mean, this is the thing, right? I like to keep things as real as possible, right? Your argument is not inaccurate, but your argument exists only for the sake of providing theoretical reasons why you would not want JavaScript. But when you get to the discussion to that point, then you can come up with an argument about anything just for the sake of having it, right? Because you could say, you said JavaScript can have security implications. So can your router, your server, your infrastructure, your API, your everything, right? So that same argument applies to everything else. So should we not have an API then? Should we not have an infrastructure? Should we hack? Should we not even have a product, right? I mean, of course, I don't disagree with you, Costa. I don't think that I don't think that anyone would argue that if it would be possible to not run code, that it would be better. Clearly, I mean, less code we have on any end, it's better. I don't disagree with that. Please don't take me wrong. But I'm never talking about my own perspective of what I would want. I'm just saying, in reality, an average user can barely memorize their password, let alone ask you to build a product that doesn't use JavaScript. That's my point, right? You get what I mean? So that is the thing. So it's not to discuss that. Of course, if we don't have something, it's better not to have it. It's the same argument. Look, let me put it this way, right? A huge percentage of websites on this planet barely work on mobile. You understand? You have billion-dollar companies who have websites that can barely load on mobile, right? So now imagine if you can't even do basic responsive design on your website, expecting these people to support their experiences without JavaScript, right? So it's more about just reality versus... So in theory, I agree with you. In theory, it would be great if everything was secure and JavaScript wasn't needed in the browser and all of these things, but that's not the reality, right? I mean, there you go. I'm sure that many of you have visited a unicorn type of product where their website barely works, right? So you see where I'm going with this. So it's not about what I would wish and what in theory could happen. Businesses, like always think about the business, right? Because the business is what defines what you should do, not vice versa. You as developer are not defining trajectory of businesses. The business needs are defining trajectory of what you should be doing. If a business doesn't give a shit about JavaScript, neither should you, right? And for 17 years building these applications, no client or a CTO or a CEO came to me and said, if we could only build a website without JavaScript, everything would be different. You know, this changes everything. Nobody ever said that, right? And that's my point, right? Let me show you one thing. Look, let's just have this discussion before I leave. Let me show you one thing. So let me do one thing. So basically, we are having a discussion about should you build your applications without JavaScript support in the browser, right? And let me please bear with me for a minute. Let me just try to illustrate why this question doesn't really matter. Let me show you this. When you're building a product, right? When you're building a website, let's imagine you're building a website, right? Or an app in the browser, right? What it is that you do, if you're reasonable, you're having some analytics. For example, Google Analytics, Dream Data Analytics company where I work, etc. What do you do then? You go into your analytics platform and you go to the browsers and you see what are the browsers that people use. 83% of our customers are using Chrome, and 78% of them are running 1080p resolution, right? And then you, as a CTO, CEO, tech lead, team as a whole, you make compromises, right? Because you know that with 3 people, 5 people, you cannot support 15 different browsers, every single resolution, every single mobile experience. That's impossible. You don't have the resources for that, right? So you don't. You simply don't. You say, your product manager and you sit down and you say, look, we have 3%. We have 2.1% of users using Opera. Well, fuck them, right? What can we do? I'm not gonna go and waste my developer hours on 7 users we get a month from the Opera browser, right? But then we add this other variable. We have 0.0013% of users who wants to disable JavaScript in the browser. You walk to your product manager and you tell him that we have 0.000013% of users who want to disable JavaScript, right? Your product manager stands up, slaps you in the face, sends you home crying, right? And he tells you, if you say this stupid shit to me ever again in your life, I'm gonna beat the living crap out of you, you little stupid bitch, right? That's basically my argument, right? So, again, it's the business needs that define what you should do. Not what you, in idealistic world, you should do. In idealistic world, we would cover every single resolution, device, support, no JavaScript, offline experience, service workers, progressive web apps. Fuck. Yeah. You get what I mean. All of it. In reality, you have 2 developers. One of them is depressed and hates his life. The other one sucks ass, right? Can barely code. And you work with what you have, right? You work with these guys, right? They have to build the application, right? That's how it works, right? So you have 2 poor, desperate souls. These poor guys are like, man, I hate my life. I don't want to go to fucking work. So you don't go to your product manager saying, there's this guy in Texas who thinks there's lizards amongst us, right? And he doesn't trust JavaScript running in the browser. He wants JavaScript out of the equation, right? 'Cause lizards, right? The dev dad is here, man. Good day, dude. I love you. It's been a while. I haven't been streaming, man, in like 2 months, but I've been checking out your stream regularly, almost. I don't have much time to watch it, but it always puts a smile on my face, man. I'm glad that you're still around and that you're still kicking ass. Always good to see you, man. And thank you, of course, for the raid. I'm also rounding up now. I need to go out with my wife and kid. But I was just explaining my theory of some of these things. But yeah, it was a perfect peak to raid me now, explaining these types of things. But yeah. I actually, since you just rated me, I even forgot what I was talking about. But yeah, that's it. That's how it is. That's how it is. That's where it is. And actually, man, I forgot how to use these Twitch commands, like shout out, right? Is there a shout out to the DevDad? DevDad is the only guy almost that I ever watched on Twitch, because he's an amazing person, an amazing guy. And if you aren't already, give him a follow, because he's truly a very kind and very chill, I don't know how to use these commands on Twitch, man. It's so hard. Shout out. Okay, shout out. Yeah, I got that one. And then there's like DevDad, right? Yes, there we go. There we go. There we go. Cool. That's amazing. Okay, let's see if there's any other interesting discussions before my wife kills me. So let's see if there's anything that we should do. And Locraine, just keep in mind, that was just me trolling a little bit. Nobody should ever tell anyone that, of course, right? So please make sure that you know it's just a joke, right? Alrighty, it seems that things are slowing down. It seems it's time for me to. It's just a joke, depending where you live. True. That's unfortunate, yes, but that's how it is. Let's see. I'm gonna wait a little bit more to see if there's any more interesting discussions, because before I just head off and have. What layer should best drive the application logic? I mean, honestly, like, you should start building your application without any. You should at least when it comes to these user interfaces and these simple things, you should define these steps later in time instead of ahead of time, right? At least that's my take. So if you're writing React or any of these libraries, right, build simple components, get yourself to the point of needing these patterns, and then apply them. That's how I do it my whole career, and I'm not going to change it, because instead of enforcing all of these things up front, sometimes that feels like a burden, right? You just need to wait a little bit to see if that thing is going to grow and what is it going to turn into, right? Because all of these different layers and all of these clear architecture and stuff, right? It's really useful when you see that you actually need it. It's also fine to call an endpoint directly from your component sometimes if you're building a simple thing. And then over time, if things grow, you can turn these things, for example, into services or whatever, and create utilities and stuff like that, right? So I don't know. I just feel that patterns have to serve us well and help us build things versus the opposite, right? Because these things are not set in stone, right? Okay, this is a good question. Let's discuss this. How do you approach a problem that you have no idea what to do? I'm sure you have a good example yourself. I have a quote for that. Einstein said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes looking for the right questions to ask, right? I think that a lot of professionals, no matter the agnostic or profession, are very prone to throwing themselves into doing things, right? But I think all of these great minds throughout the history, like Tesla and Einstein and Nikola Copernic and all of these guys, right? They used to know how they knew how much time it's needed to think and to research and stuff, and then do, right? So this is also one of the very common things with junior developers, right? Is that when you start programming, you learn some basic stuff, and you just feel you're on top of the world, right? You just want to write code. But then oftentimes you start building things that you have no idea what you're doing, right? So what I do personally, and that's why I love going to work, at Dream Data, where I currently work, we use a system called OKRs, Objectives and Key Results. And basically, every team in our organization is an expert team. So we don't have CTO or someone else bringing solutions to us. You know, our CTO is going to come every quarter and say, hey, this quarter we have these OKRs. You have to implement, I don't know, you have to improve this number of, I don't know, just a random example. Let's imagine we need to improve, reduce the friction of users signing up. Then you, with your team, you come up with the solutions on what that might be. And you never know, right? And then you start the research, you look at other products, you try to get some domain knowledge, you try to talk to customers, you try to talk to people internally. If you have a customer success team, you can go to them and say, hey, you know, John Doe, what it is that people are having issues in this part of the product. And then your CS, of course, has a lot of insights. Then you go to your marketing team, then you go to your sales team, and then you ask your sales team, hey, sales team, what it is that you guys are struggling when you're selling, you know, what are the... So this is basically, this is why I love programming. The least amount of programming that I love today is writing code. The most programming that I love is the part up to writing code. This excites me. Trying to figure out, you know, when to do things. We always know, as I said many times before, every single company knows what to do. You always have a huge backlog. It's just when to do it, when is the right time, etc., 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 and all of these things, right? So the way that I approach it, going back to the original question, is just trying to genuinely understand the problem and trying to talk to as many people, at least that I have access to in my organization. That's why I also love working from the office. I mean, I work from the office more or less every day, unless I'm sick or whatever, because I can talk to people, I can feel their pain. I can talk to my sales team and say, man, like, it's so hard to sell this thing because, you know, this is confusing to customers. Or I go to my customer success and I try to help them, and then I derive various types of opinions. Then I sit with my designer, my product manager, my other developers, and then we brainstorm and we figure out, okay, we gathered all of this feedback. Now let's try to make some actionable points. But actionable points like something that we can quickly try to test and fail, right? So the once you gather all of this feedback, you want to try to come up with some minimal scopes, avoid scope creep, right? Because it's always easy to overextend. Oh, how about we also do this and this and this? No, just focus on certain points, try to validate them. Is it good? Great. Then let's sit again, reevaluate the time, and then let's invest more time, right? So, I don't know, this is what I think every developer should try to find inspiration in, because if your inspiration only is just writing code, no offense to anybody, but that probably means you're still very junior, or you're still not on a level of being excited about the outcome of the product, and not just being a code monkey, right? Because writing code is a skill that nearly everyone can learn, but turning yourself from a code monkey into a professional that genuinely tries to be part of all of these processes of talking to the actual people, seeing their pains, this is the beauty, right, long term. So, yeah. So that is basically my take. That is my take on it. What I read between the lines, you're breaking down the problems to smaller problems and go to talk to other. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you have to. These problems are huge, right? Building a product is like raising a child. It's a never-ending process. It never stops. You never really. For example, let me give you an example. Every company on the planet wants to reduce churn, right? Churn is when your customers don't either leave, they don't subscribe anymore, they don't pay a yearly contract. So every single company wants to reduce churn. Every single company on this earth, every single month, one of the tasks that they do is related to how can we prevent customers from going somewhere else. So that's just a random example. Every single company out there is trying to make their onboarding process in their product better. Every single product, digital product especially, wants to make sure that the users can sign up as quickly as possible and configure the things with minimal effort possible. So you never really solve these things. You never do this and you say we're done. No, you're not done. So that's why you have to have small chunks of things where you improve. because in the next quarter or in the quarter after, you're going to have the same OKR again. Let's reduce churn even more. So what else can we do, right? So that's why it's fundamental to realize that these problems are not solvable fully ever, because you will never reduce like churn to zero. You're always going to be able to do more optimizations, right? So that's why it's important that you understand when you talk to people and all of this stuff to gather some insights and figure out, okay, this is how many OKRs we have now, and this is the reasonable amount of time we have to solve it, well, in that time span, right? Yeah. I mean, the speed isn't necessarily, right? So sometimes things are going to take a long time to research, and they're going to take very little time to implement. I see this every day. Sometimes things are going to be very clear what you need to do, but the solutions are going to take a very long time to implement, right? So it doesn't really matter, right? If you have a reasonable team, a reasonable CTO, if you have a good internal communication, these things are always clear, right? Some solutions sometimes take 1 day to implement, right? Because it was just that little fraction of things was missing. Sometimes solutions are very complicated and they might drag for 3-4 months, right? Then you have to break these things down into meaningful things and always push to production. Your goal should always be to get things out, right? Even if you have 25% of things done, put it under launch darkly or under some flag, expose it to your product manager, the rest of your team, all the parties involved into the product, and always have it there. And then as you push changes, make sure that there's this constant loop, right? Because when you're building these more complicated pieces of your product, your CEO in a smaller startup is always going to be involved, your CTO 100%, and a bunch of other people. So don't put pressure on yourself keeping that thing on your machine for 2 months, 3 months, because there's so many things that you can do wrong. So just continuously, as soon as you start a new thing, first thing you do, put it under darkly flag, put necessary parties under the platform, like who has the access to see this, almost like an A/B testing. And then that's pretty much it. Give me 1 second. I just, but yeah, this basic summarizes it. All right, guys, my wife and kid are, my kid is slamming my door. I need to run. I need to go. Unfortunately, there's 90 people watching, so that's awesome. I just came back to streaming again. So I need to run. He wants to go out, and that is the obligation of being a parent. So I'm gonna have to leave you guys. Dev Dad was here. He made my day. I love the guy. Thank you very much for being here. And I need to take this little fella out. So yeah. Peace out, everybody, guys. Thank you very much. Have a great one. Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye.